This is Jeffe Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Oh, really good this morning. It's good every day, but it's really good this morning. You know, like some days it just hits you. You all can just wait a moment while I savor. Well, it is a somewhat chilly October morning here in Santa Fe. We've had a couple of absolutely incredible weather days, just like perfect autumn days with no breeze and hot sun and blue skies that are cloudless in a full circle all around, not a cloud to be seen, just scorchingly beautiful, soul-searingly beautiful. And the leaves are starting to turn up here, so I saw some writer friends yesterday. We had lunch at Cafecito, which was delightful as always, except for, okay, so here's one of my things. I like my steak medium rare, and I got the steak free, and I asked for it medium rare, and it was like well done. It was like zombie steak. It had been cooked for so long and barely resurrected. And one of my lunch companions encouraged me to send it back, but I did not. It was still tasty, but a lot of, like, I have this sort of calculus that I do at different restaurants of, like, what should I ask for? Should I ask for, because I don't really want it rare. I don't like it when it has the cold center. At Cafecito, I thought, well, I'm safe asking for medium rare, because a lot of times if I order rare, I'll actually get medium rare. But in this case, it was so well done. It was like, but it wasn't too tough to chew, so But that was not my point. I was actually rhapsodizing, not complaining. One wouldn't know it. But it was gorgeous. We sat outside, and the afternoon sunlight was coming through the changing leaves, and every once in a while a little red leaf would fall on our table like a gift. And it was great conversation and good wine and all of these things. Yeah, so anyway, it was delightful. I did not get any writing done yesterday, so I need to start getting writing done, and I'm hoping it'll be okay today. But yes, I am at the end of the Act 1 climax, so working away on the writing, but I am at almost 22,000 words. So theoretically, it should start going a little faster now, and I can get it finished out. With my friends yesterday, we were talking about things we wanted to write, writing ideas, and kind of bouncing off of each other, which is one of the most fun things to do. And so now I kind of want to do that, those things that we were talking about. But I went to see the Taylor Swift movie for Life of a Showgirl with Sydney the Tyrant. She came up from Albuquerque and went with me and took photos. So, you know, she's doing her job. We're getting content. There's been so much stuff online about the release of this album. So much stuff. And I'm one of those listeners that, like, I almost never love anything on the first listen. It takes me several listens before I really start to get into it. And so, up front, Life of a Showgirl is not my favorite album, but I still really like it. And there's a lot of songs on it that I really like. And it's more, and this has been observed everywhere online, exhaustively. I mean, to the point of, seriously, ad nauseum. But it's more like 1989, which we could have expected because she was working with Martin and Shellback again. It's a boppier album. It's a very happy album. And it is not the deep and reflective lyrics of her last four albums, which is fine. I happen to love the last 4 albums a whole lot, particularly Midnights. I think Midnights and Tortured Poets, I've talked about this, are my favorites. But I've listened to Life of a Showgirl, and there's a lot to love there. And a lot of it is deceptively lighthearted. There's a lot of important emotions beneath it. But the thing is this is a happy album. This is her happy I'm in love album. And I think there's a couple things going on social media wise. Remember that old New Yorker cartoon from probably from the 90s, where the one dog is sitting at the keyboard and the other dog is down below, and the dog at the keyboard is saying, "No one knows you're a dog on the internet." And I think that's really important to remember, because we don't know who these people are on the internet talking about things. Some of them we do, because they have established presences, but a lot of these are like one-offs. It reminds me of this thing that my friend Jim Sorensen said once, which I believe he was echoing other people, but he said, "No one is too corrupt for the right, and no one is pure enough for the left." And I thought that's such a great insight, because the easiest way to get the left to not be united even in these times when we have a very clear and present danger, very clear enemy, where we're battling literal fascists and Nazis, racists, Stephen Miller wanting to decrease the population of the United States by hundreds of millions of people. That's a thing. And you know what people he wants to get rid of too, right? But it's so easy to get stir up these battles among progressives, leftists online about who is left enough, who's progressive enough. This album is about that she's in love, that she had been lonely, that now she has this person. She has the very raunchy, sexy song Wood, which is great. Gotta love that. And of course, there's relentless criticism about this, right? Because somehow people think that a 35-year-old woman should not be singing about sex. And I've been seeing people gathering songs online, like from our youth or from other times, like much sexier songs. And I suggested Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and In My Room by the Bangles, Let's Pretend We're Married. These are songs that are very explicit, much more explicit than Wood, but there's this relentless criticism. And what's disappointing to me is there are people drawing these they're really stretching, to try to make her seem like she's racist, but then also like she's MAGA. And it's like, if you know anything about her and her politics, which is demonstrated over time, like she has among her dancers, you can look at a photo of her dancers on the Eras Tour. She has people of all kinds of ethnicities and body sizes. You Need to Calm Down is a song that's about homophobia and how she supports queer people. She has come out and deliberately not endorsed Trump, has warned us against voting for this particular administration. She supported Kamala Harris. She is not MAGA. So, it's fascinating to see these. It's fascinating from an objective standpoint. It's upsetting because it seems like people are believing it. Like, these bots pretending to be people, saying things like, "Oh, well, this song is racist because she's, talking about a black knight, the Onyx Knight." And it's like, oh yeah, because a black knight has not been a literary symbol for ages, right? I know there are times when people are coding racism, and that's awful, and they're using dog whistles. That's not what's happening with Taylor. That's not how she thinks. And if and the thing is they don't care. They're not listening to the music. They're just trying to be divisive. Taylor's a liberal icon, and they don't like that. So I have to tear her down, and people who consider themselves progressives jump on that bandwagon. And I think it's really upsetting because I have seen quite a few women jumping on there talking about Taylor being anti-feminist because she's in love. She's getting married. She has been singing to us for the last 20 years about how she wants love, that she wants children. You know, we know she's wanted the ring and pushing strollers and all of that, and she's excited about that. So she's written songs about being excited about having the driveway with a basketball hoop in it and having children with her amazing, vigorous lover. And she's excited and happy. And people are saying that this is anti-feminist. And you know what, people? No.
You will be bored of him in 2 years, and we will be interesting forever.
Just because my dreams are different than yours doesn't mean they're unimportant.
No, it is not. It is not anti-feminist. And, you know, it comes back to this thing about being too pure for the left. No one is pure enough for the left, right? Because, like, you can't be feminist enough. And we end up, like, turning and fighting each other on who's feminist enough and what does it mean to be really feminist. And it's toxic. It's really damaging because we should be standing together, because the whole point of feminism is that, for me anyway, that I am a person first and a woman second, and that as a person I have all of the rights of fundamental rights of any human being, and that I get to choose what I want my life to be, that no one can force me to be barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen cooking. But you know what? If I want to devote myself to baking sourdough, and if I met a guy, and well, if I were still capable, I'm not, but you know, have his babies, have some children and a wonderful, warm and loving home, yeah, that's, we get to have that. And it reminds me a whole lot of when the Tears of the Rose came out. So the first trilogy that I had, fantasy romance from Kensington, started with The Mark of the Tala, and then The Tears of the Rose and The Talon of the Hawk. And The Mark of the Tala starts out talking about the three princesses, each more beautiful than the last. And the first book, The Mark of the Tala, is about the middle princess. In fact, that was my working title, was The Middle Princess. And then I went to the youngest, who I was calling the Flower Princess. And the last one is the Heir and Warrior, and she is the Sword Princess. Well, so book 2, The Tears of the Rose, she is the youngest and most beautiful. And I've written other books that tangle with this theme, but it's difficult for women who are incredibly beautiful because they grow up thinking that that is the only worth they have. And society treats them that way. I have a friend right now who's my age, who is, been in a long marriage, and she is a strikingly beautiful woman, like model beautiful. She fits kind of this classic ideal. She's very tall and very slender with long blonde hair. And she's gorgeous. She's amazingly gorgeous. And men treat her like a trophy. And she has even commented from time to time on, like feeling like, she's arm candy, like she's just there to look good. And this is a very common thing for women, right? Especially very beautiful women, right? So I wanted to play with this in this book, where Amelia grows up being the most beautiful. In her entire life, poets have written sonnets to her praising her beauty, and she grows up thinking that, okay, this is my worth, which is how life is. This is a very common phenomenon, right? And at the beginning, she says, I think it's even just part of her inner monologue, where she's thinking that, she doesn't have to learn to do anything. She doesn't need to be anything or anyone, that she can simply smile, that all anyone requires of her is to smile. And which I stand by, that this is, this is how very beautiful women learn to be, right? You smile, you use your looks, and you get by. Well,
Yeah, well, you look beautiful, Cassie. You look amazing. It's literally all anyone's ever told you your entire life.
there was a review, and this was back when I saw my reviews more often, but it was like a romance for feminists site or something like that. And I was kind of excited for their review because I'm hardcore feminist. I really am. Mostly in that, go back to this. Yeah, I believe that I'm a person first and a woman second. And I think we all get to choose how we want to live our lives. And my books, I feel like, are very feminist. But this gal, I believe, even DNF'd it and had put an unhappy face on it. And she had pulled out that line saying, oh, well, it turns out that this book isn't feminist at all because the heroine thinks this. And it's like, yeah, it makes me want to set my hair on fire. Because how do you not understand that human beings are flawed? That you buy into this relentless programming from the patriarchy, and that being feminist doesn't mean that you never doubt, that you never fall into these traps. It doesn't mean any of those things at all. And it's so frustrating that some people think that to be feminist, you have to reject everything feminine. And I know that's true because I have had people come up to me and tell me that I don't need to be so performatively female, as if I don't know that. And as if, because the fact that I choose to have long hair and I wear makeup and I do my nails and I like pretty clothes, that is somehow me not being true to myself. Whereas the whole point is that I get to be this, that nobody gets to tell me from either direction how I should dress and how I should act and what parts of being a woman I embrace and what I don't. And yeah, I just think that it's amazing to watch this on such a mass scale, because I do think that the disinformation bots are working overtime to try to cancel Taylor Swift, which they're just not going to be able to do. The album's hit all sorts of recording industry milestones yet again. But to have us somehow lose sight of what we want, that because she's happy about getting married, and I hope she does get to have a baby right away. I mean, she's 35. She needs to start having her kids. She knows that. I hope if that's what they want, to have kids right away, I hope she gets to have them, because, she has given her life to, being a showgirl, right? That's what this album's about, with that final song, which is a really great song, that's what the life of a showgirl is about. And, I will never experience her level of fame, but, I think we're all of us trying to balance, like when you pursue something that you want, the kind of career you want to have, and it involves a level of performing and being in the public eye, then yeah, that's not easy. And you still get to want, like, the quiet things of life. You still get to want to make bread. One thing that I loved in watching this movie was getting to see, the behind the scenes on the video, that was her loaf of sourdough, which she's talked about baking sourdough a whole lot. She's really into this. And she got to have her loaf in the video, and it was incredibly gorgeous. It's, yeah, much better than anything I could bake. Mine never come out that pretty. It's like, well, damn. So anyway, I am disappointed. There was a fairly big name author whose politics I thought I generally agreed with, but apparently she went on a rant about Taylor being anti-feminist. And it's like, could we try not to shark feed on each other, right? Tell you what, once we get rid of the fascists and the Nazis and restore democracy and some decent social programs to the U.S. again, and remove the threat of having our own military attack our citizens, and especially if they're Democrats. And I'm very proudly wearing my blue today. We don't need to be fighting each other. If you all want to, throw down and let's, I don't know what do you want? Codify what it means to be a feminist. Sure, let's have that conversation at some point. I'm really interested to hear the counter argument for how, I don't know, how I'm supposed to be a feminist. Actually, I'm not, but sounds good to say I am. I don't want to hear it. All right. On that note, I'm going to get to work and write my feminist books that may or may not seem feminist to anyone else. And I will talk to you all on Friday. You all take care. Bye-bye. Oh, do we have a cat visiting? So, Killian, stop. Go on. Act 1 climax. So I'm... All right, what was my point? I know I had one. I put him back in the bedroom so I don't have to hear it. I'm a mean cat mom.